sports and TV show streams, going live on YouTube, streaming live on YouTube. I gotta put the iPad in the stand. I think I gotta switch the camera to front camera so you can see the TV. Now I gotta check if we really are going live. Sport. Okay, we're going live.
Volume 29.
On the third.
Volume 45. Volume 45. Volume 42.
That they had to try to send him somewhere to a burn center, since there are no burn specialists here.
The nearest Soviet burn center with space for the boy was thousands of miles away in Moscow, and they had no means of safely transporting him in his weakened condition.
It seemed to me that the doctors were beginning to prepare us for the worst, and that was because he might die.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a landmark rescue continues. U.S. doctors fly to Russia to save a boy with staggering burns.
This was one of the deepest burns we have ever seen.
En route, the rescue takes a turn for the worse.
The patient is no longer stable, his respiratory condition has deteriorated, and he cannot carry on to Galveston.
Then, a toddler's foot is stuck in the toilet.
Get your mom, you
A frightened child screams for help on Rescue 911.
When an 8-year-old Russian child, Anton Ovtyanko, was severely burned, he was taken to the main hospital in his hometown in Siberia. Though the local hospital did everything they could to help the boy, with each passing day, his condition was growing worse. After 6 days, Vladimir could no longer stand the forced separation from his son.
He noticed me and started crying a little bit and stretched his arm toward me. Papa, come to me. Why don't you come see me? I'm here by myself.
Почему ты не подходишь? Не бойся, совсем не страшно.
I didn't pay any attention to the rules. And I went to him. and kissed his hand. And asked him what he needs. What can I bring you? He asked for his favorite toy.
As their son's condition continued to deteriorate, Anton's parents were no longer willing to just wait and do nothing. They heard that some foreign exchange students and their American teacher were coming to Magadan. Vladimir went to meet them at the airport to ask for the Americans' help.
His name is Vladimir.
Я хотел просить вас помочь в беде. Мой сын...
I wanted to ask you for help.
У меня несчастье, у меня обгорел сын, лежит в больнице, умирает.
I asked you for help because my son got burned and now he's dying in the hospital.
Вроде Роким долго не раздумывал.
Roddy Rockhill didn't stop to think for very long. He told me there is a man in Alaska who can help.
We have an opportunity to contact some American doctors you know who could help.
One of the first people Larry called was the director of the Institute for Circumpolar Health Studies in Anchorage, Alaska, Dr. Ted Molla.
We wanted to make sure that we could really help him, because if you really think about the reality of it, no one had ever brought anyone out of the Soviet Union that I know of into the United States for treatment directly.
What's going on? What medical...
While Dr. Molla tried to cut through the red tape to get official government permission, on her own, Betty Johnson worked day and night to find a burn center for Anton and the means to transport him.
I worried that I would not be able to get anything done for this child before he died, because third-degree burns are very significant, and I was very worried that he would not make it. I felt that there was a possibility of failure, but I was going to give it my best shot.
It took 3 days and hundreds of calls, but Betty managed to get the Shriners Burn Institute, the Rocky Mountain Helicopter Company, and the Providence Hospital medevac team to provide Anton's care and transport for free. And Dr. Molla got both the U.S. and Soviet governments to grant full permission for the flight and even waive the visas. Marilyn Belanger was a flight nurse on the historic rescue attempt.
The type of trip that we were going to do was not going to be anything different from the daily work that we do. But the destination was the exciting point. I had never been to the Soviet Union. So there was some apprehension going into new territory.
When we continue.
He kissed this little boy goodbye. He didn't know when he would see his son again, and I couldn't reassure his dad that this little boy was going to be okay.
Wake up every morning to Funny Side Up.
I tell you, Michael, when it comes to jive, JJ is the best alive.
And I tell you, JJ, when it comes to food, you're at the head of the school. When I was born, my body was blessed by Mother Nature, huh?
And as you got older, it was cursed by Father Time.
Now with good times and Sanford and Son. Weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Central on Get TV. Great riches will find you when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance. So you only pay for... Daughter? Huh?
Call the toll-free number on your screen now to see if you...
Arrived in Soviet Union.
We did see an unusual sight when we landed, because usually there is a truck that says follow me, but this time there was somebody on a bicycle with reflectors on and a flashlight, and basically this jet was following this guy on a bicycle to the place where we had to go and park. It was pretty amazing.
Little more than an hour after touchdown, the American medical crew arrived at Magadan Regional Hospital.
Our reality is that we want to go in very quickly, take the boy, and get out.
Hey, brother.
Когда приехала группа врачей,
When the group of doctors came with Ted Mala in charge, he explained that from Alaska, we would be sent to a hospital in Galveston. Well, for me, it was completely incomprehensible. I didn't know where Galveston is or what that is.
During the long drive to the airport, Anton's parents rode with him in the ambulance.
ему Кэрри подарила...
A nurse gave Anton a little bear. The bear was always with him. There's even a drop of Anton's blood on it. He loved it.
Only Anna would be able to go with their son to America.
Ну, момент прощания.
The moment we had to part,
Попросил, поцеловал его.
I kissed him.
Попросил.
I asked him to be brave.
Мужественно.
You get where you're going.
Дойти до места.
Get better, and come back soon.
Выздоравливай.
He kissed this little boy goodbye. He didn't know when he would see his son again. And I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't reassure his dad that this little boy was going to be okay and he would come back well. And still today, that's one of the moments that will stay with me for a long, long time. Into the flight, Anton's airway started to close off. His respiration slowed down and he had to struggle to breathe. My heart was in my boots. We knew that we could not put Anton through the remainder of the flight in the condition that he was.
The patient is no longer stable, his respiratory condition has deteriorated, and he cannot carry on to Galveston.
An emergency stop was made in Anchorage, Alaska, so Anton could be admitted to Providence Hospital and stabilized. Later that day, he was transported to Galveston, Texas, where he was met by Surgeon Paul Wayback of the Shriners Burn Institute.
This was one of the deepest burns we have ever seen. Most of the burn patients we receive within 24 hours of their burn injury. In such patients, there has not been adequate time for bacteria to invade the burn wound and cause infections. But Anton had been in the Soviet Union for 2 weeks following the burn injury, and during this time his wounds had become extensively infected with bacteria. Approximately 33% of Anton's body was burned, but what made this burn unique was the fact that the burn went all the way down through skin and fatty tissue to muscle and bone. So we used cadaver skin to cover the wound.
It took 2.5 hours of surgery. Massive doses of antibiotics were also administered. Then the waiting began to see if he could overcome the infection.
Поддержать его.
He was lying there. He was all swollen and covered with medicine. And he looked at me and started to cry a little. And I comforted him and told him not to cry because you shouldn't get your face wet with tears. It might get worse. And then, of course, I went into the hallway and became hysterical.
Anton's condition began to improve. 5 days after his arrival, doctors replaced the cadaver skin with grafts from unburned parts of his own body.
Okay, we're going to save the best piece of skin for the face. I want the second best piece here for the hand.
The depth of the burns was so great that in some areas we had to remove tissue all the way down to bone and tendon in order to find something that was alive and would accept the skin grafts.
I got some.
5 days later, occupational therapist Kathy Gross began the next stage of the boy's painful recovery process.
Anton, like any other kid, can get upset with us when he's experiencing pain and often gets angry.
Еще давай. One. Two.
He's a very motivated child, and I'm sure that 5 years from now you'll look at him and you probably won't even be able to tell that he was burned.
Самым счастливым моментом.
The happiest moment, I think, was that I got back up on my feet and that I came out alive. I think that the doctors who treated me in Texas were the best of all.
В Texas лучше всех.
When they did the physical therapy, it hurt.
Сейчас мне уже.
But it doesn't hurt so much now.
Okay, come on. Oh.
After 3 weeks in America, 8-year-old Anton Avdienko was well enough to return home to Russia to be reunited with his family.
It was a great joy to return home with a healthy, live child who walks on his own legs, who runs, who's happy. We're all together again. I'm very grateful to everyone who participated and for their involvement in our whole tragedy.
Счастливы от встречи.
We were happy to be reunited, he and I.
10 раз больше.
Maybe 10 times more than usual.
Чувство такое.
I had such a feeling of relief that we were finally together again.
Наконец-то все вместе.
Легче поговорить.
I want to thank all those people who helped me. All the people who gave me blood. And those who were able to give money, with which I was able to fly to America. And I learned that matches are a bad joke. I don't think I'm going to be playing with fire again. Now, I feel very well. I got much better when I returned back home.
Next.
The lady kind of hesitated. I felt like she was thinking, was I serious?
Johnny Cat.
Some situations are so out of the ordinary that we could never imagine finding ourselves in them. But on July 7th, 1992, Laura Cole discovered that when children are involved, almost anything can happen.
Christine is a little more active than the average 2-year-old that I've seen. Sometimes she can be a little mischievous, and she likes to joke around and have fun.
She is a pain sometimes if I tell her to go wipe up her mess that she made and she won't do it. And she says, you go do it, and she's kind of bossy to me.
Anyway, and I can... Hang on just a second. What you need, honey?
Potty.
Okay, sweetie, go back there and I'll be right back there. We're in the middle of potty training and she's doing pretty good. So I said, go ahead, go back there, and I'll be back there in a minute. Sounds like things are moving along ahead of schedule for you then. And I heard Christine start to cry. Melissa, can you come check on Christine, please?
What's wrong?
Melissa McAvoy was the Cole family's babysitter.
Oh, this is Christine. She's fussing back there.
Christina, what happened?
I walked to the bathroom, and Christine said, my foot's stuck.
It's okay.
I thought it was strange to find a girl in a toilet bowl.
Look at your mom, you okay? Christina's foot is stuck in the toilet.
What?
Her foot is stuck in the toilet.
And I was thinking, this is strange. I mean, there's no way a foot can go in a toilet and not come back out.
totally stuck.
It would not budge, not even a fraction of an inch. And I was afraid if I put any more pressure on her leg, it would have easily broken. I put half a bottle of dishwashing detergent down in that water, and it still wasn't budging. I didn't know if it was, cutting circulation off in her leg. There was just no way to tell. It was so tight in there. The lady on the end of the line kind of hesitated, and I felt like she was thinking, was I serious?
Okay, we'll get rescue out there. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
St. Lucie Fort Pierce County Fire Rescue units were immediately dispatched. Among them was 6-year veteran firefighter paramedic Andy McDonald.
This was not a routine call, so we knew it was bound to be interesting.
Which way is it in there?
Rescuers arrived at the bathroom within 6 minutes.
Okay, let's try a little more soap here. Okay, it's slippery, but her foot's just really wedged in there.
The rescue team was headed by Lieutenant Larry Barton.
This was a serious situation. A small kid like that is scared to death if she's tied up to something and can't get away from it.
Larry turned for help to the only toilet expert he knew, his fire captain, Bill Davis.
I've been in construction, and I understand how these things are put together. And so I said, well, go ahead and take the toilet on out, and we'll meet you down there in a few minutes.
She was screaming so loud because she saw all the strangers and stuff. You could probably hear her all the way down the block.
John Cole had been working in the neighborhood when he decided to stop by to check on his family. The last thing he expected was to find his daughter stuck in the toilet.
It's hard to sit back and know that your child is calling out for you and not be able to do anything.
I think it's probably tough on the parents. They want something to happen now. It's something you could have gone there with a sledgehammer and broke the toilet open, but you wasn't being professional.
Ready? Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Don't drop it. Lock arms. Be real careful coming out. Dad, you on there? We got you. This way. We got you. Nice and easy. We got you. Watch your corner. That's easy. Watch your corner. Easy. Watch your leg. Watch your leg. I got the front door now.
I was worried because she's only 2 and that's the first big adventure she's ever had.
Nice and easy. Be careful. Take your time now. Nobody falls. Take your time. Okay, take your time. We're all right.
You carrying it out, you're going now. Once I get it outside, what am I going to do with it? I'm out here with a toilet in the middle of a driveway. What am I going to do with it?
Okay, what we got here, Lieutenant?
When the chief paramedic showed up, being the authority on plumbing and what, he took a look at the situation and told us how they were going to have to approach the toilet and how they were going to enter it.
This toilet off.
I said, well, looks like we're going to have to break the toilet apart. I told them to stuff some towels around her foot so that the toilet comes apart, that it won't cut her.
Okay, with some towels, stuff these towels around her foot.
Okay, go ahead and bring it
I used the pick end of a pry axe to carefully chip the toilet.
That's easy. Okay, there you go. Okay, hold on a second.
The first piece that we took off, we got into the neck part of the toilet, which we didn't see what we wanted to see. So I said, let's chip it again. So we chipped it farther back.
Easy.
It was pretty exciting seeing them break the toilet with the hatchet and stuff.
A little bit. There we go. Caroline crack again. There it goes. Fine.
As soon as they freed her foot, she jumped right up into her dad's arms, and was just, she stopped crying then, right away.
One thing that can be learned from this is never stand up in the toilet. And never pull the handle down either when you do.
2-year-old Christine Cole suffered only a minor cut on her foot as a result of the incident and experienced no other setbacks in completing her potty training.
We laugh a little bit at it. It's something that's changed the way we look at the bathroom, I think.
Oh boy, what a mess.
Children are always going to be getting into situations, and anything can happen. I never dreamed that she would have got her foot stuck in the toilet. They don't tell you about this in the potty training manuals.
Rescue 911 Russie Rescue II, potty peril, 30min00, SEC, reported Jan 8, 2020. Us doctors fly to Russia to save a boy with staggering burns. A toddler's foot is stuck in the toilet. Rescue 911 Russie Rescue II, potty peril, 30min00, SEC, reported Jan 8, 2020. Us doctors fly to Russia to save a boy with staggering burns. A toddler's foot is stuck in the toilet. Recent recordings.
For good.
It's time to set history straight.
I tried a long time ago. So my grandpa. Back then, nobody put much stock in the words of a black man. Even if he was a war hero.
Well, they will now.
Today on Rescue 911, safe in her own backyard.
Yes, my daughter just got kidnapped.
A bold abduction
They've never found one of the victims alive.
leads cops down a dangerous road.
Guys like this, you don't know what they're capable of.
Then, a car on blocks
Off at the road, rust way down on his neck and head and chest, and he just stopped moving.
becomes a death trap
You just land that he was just lifeless.
and leaves a man struggling for life on Rescue 911.
It's often only through the caring and commitment of strangers that we can survive the unthinkable. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of heroes who give us hope on Rescue 911. We begin on Sunday, December 15th, 1991, in the small town of Vista, California, where Richard Hageman was at home in his apartment looking after his two young daughters.
Oh, sure, but stay right out back where I'm keeping an eye. I said, that's fine. You can go out back and play. I thought nothing of it. I usually check on the children every 5-10 minutes.
Hey, girls.
What?
Come here, girls. Come on. What you doing? Playing, huh? You having fun? You're not going to believe this, but you know what I found? All this money. Look at all that money. You know what?
There's 10 times as much as this back here, but I'm having trouble counting it. Do you want to come back here and help me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping.
This man just looked for money by our house.
Look at all this money I found.
He showed money to Shannon, my sister.
Here, I found some little fence. Let's take a look. Look at all that money right there. Don't worry, I'll be back for you in a minute.
He'll come back for me and take me for ice cream.
I was on my way out back to check on the children. Rachel came running up to me, "Daddy, Daddy, somebody just took Shannon." I immediately ran with her into the carport. My daughter pointed to a green sedan.
When we continue,
I was scared to death. I've been...
Guess what? Every Saturday this April, Sonny and Cher and the Smothers Brothers are going back to back.
That is a good idea.
So grab your mothers and some mothers. Yeah.
Eight 837-1682. That's 800-837-1682.
when 6-year-old Shannon was abducted by a man from in front of her apartment, her father Richard got a glimpse of the car as it sped away and ran inside to call for help.
Sir, 911 emergency?
Yes, my daughter just got kidnapped.
Okay.
In my apartment complex.
Okay, did you say who took her?
It was a little green lowrider.
Which way did they go?
I ran out the...
I was scared to death. I've been reading in the paper recently about all the different kidnappings in the area. They've never found one of the victims alive.
And the people who were in the car?
My other daughter said it was a guy with a white-black Mexican look. There's a white male with something in his hair, she said.
Wait a second, I'm gonna get the thing started. How old is your daughter?
6 years old.
Don Bronson had only been a San Diego County Sheriff's dispatcher for a year.
Whenever you get a call like this, you want to get the initial information to the radio, because the thing you would see would be the car first.
31.2, a unit to cover, possible 2 of...
The report of the abduction was relayed to units throughout the area.
I need a little description of what your daughter was wearing, okay?
A sweater top with a hood, white with brown trim on.
I was very fearful for her life, so I tried to keep as calm as I could and be as accurate as I could.
No description on the guy other than he had a thing in his hair?
That's all my daughter said. I was just walking out to check, and she said they just took her and offered her.
Could you ask, how old's your the other daughter?
She just turned 5.
Oh, boy. If we have any more questions, we'll be calling you back.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, sir.
I wanted Shannon back, because I missed her.
What's the last direction of travel?
What's Palomar NFC from Lanier Road?
One of the detectives assigned to the case was Ed Pollock.
They put out a Code 5, which is a call to all the units to start stakeouts surrounding the crime scene. In this case, they're looking for that lime green car.
Also among those searching for the missing girl was Deputy Nelson Prosper.
When the supervisor said to take up a Code 5 position, each unit made up their own mind on where they want to go. I tried to put myself into his shoes. If I wanted to get away, which way would I go? So I said, I'm going to take the Bonsall Bridge, hoping that this guy would take her to a rural area where no one's around.
What's your dog's name?
Shannon.
Words really can't describe the feeling you have when you lose someone.
It was a white top.
This was extremely difficult for me because I had lost a son before. My house burned down in Pennsylvania and my son died. And I thought I was losing a second. I was losing a daughter.
I've got Escondido and Fallbrook units.
vehicle was last seen naturally on Swandair and possibly en route to Talmar.
As I'm sitting there looking at the intersection, I could see a lime green car coming eastbound on East Vista Way. They said it was lime green. This thing was lime green. My blood is pumping, the adrenaline is pumping. I'm thinking, this gotta be it. As I got closer, I could see the head of a child. I couldn't tell whether it was a boy or girl at that point.
You're making a left on Holly Lane, California plate 526 George Boy unit.
Guys like this, you don't know what they're capable of. That includes killing the cop, killing the kid, whatever it takes to get away. I decided at this point I gotta stop him here. I don't want him to go any further.
I have a possible suspect vehicle stopped 1000 block of Kerry Lane past the Bonzo Bridge. Is there a name on the victim?
Affirmative. Shannon.
10-4. Send me some cover.
I could see him looking in the rearview mirror, looking in his side view mirror. I could sense that he was real nervous.
Is this your car?
Yes, officer, it is.
What's your relationship to the child there?
She's a friend of mine.
He couldn't come up with an answer right away. When he said, it's just a friend, I knew that right then and there, this is the guy, this is the girl.
Is something wrong?
Just step out of the car for me.
I could see the little girl. She's starting to cry.
You need to go to the front of my car. Stay right there, sweetheart. Right to the front of the car.
If this guy wants to not go along with the program, I'm gonna be in here for a good long fight, because he's a big boy.
All the way down. There you go. Keep your hands right there.
Till I get him handcuffed and in the back seat of my car, then I kind of feel a sigh of relief.
Come on out here, sweetheart. Come on. Everything's okay. Come on out.
It was like I was picking up one of my own kids. I almost cried. I almost cried, telling her to calm down. Her dad was coming to pick her up. You get that big knot in your throat. It was incredible.
It is hard to describe how you can feel after getting a loved one back after a kidnapping. It's the feeling that you have your child and you're going to make sure she's safe for life.
The suspect subsequently pleaded guilty to child molestation and was sentenced to 17 years in prison. In the 10 months since the incident, the whole family has been doing all they can to deal with the painful memories of that day.
It basically has devastated the whole entire family. Shannon, Rachel, and Rich are all receiving therapy. Doesn't matter where you live or how many times you tell your child over and over again you don't talk to strangers. They're still children and they're still susceptible to anything.
I work for San Diego County Sheriff's Department. Is anyone...
To help educate children, the Sheriff's Department offers a special class for area schools, hosted in part by McGruff the Crime Dog.
That's right. When you are in trouble, you scream, you yell, you run, you get help.
We encourage kids, we don't want to fill them with paranoia of strangers, because certainly not every person walking down the street is out to do them harm.
A lot of adults can trick people into doing things they don't really mean to do.
But if you're scared or you feel something wrong, run and tell a trusted adult.
If the stranger wants you to go with him, don't go.
The police did an excellent job in this. For Officer Prosper to find her within a half hour of the time that she was taken is a miracle.
As long as I live, I'll remember this part of my law enforcement career forever. One of the greatest feelings, being a cop and doing something good for a kid. That's what it's all about.
Next.
He had a pulse, but he wasn't breathing. I thought his neck was broke. I thought, well, he's dead. There's nothing I can do for him.
He's fleeing.
Extra, extra. It's the Get TV newsletter featuring star interviews, fun facts, and schedule highlights. Sign up today at get.tv.
When our quiet world is suddenly shattered, we can only hope that we're prepared to respond quickly to the emergency. For Jennifer Wellborn, that moment came on the afternoon of July 15th, 1990, outside her home in Guthrie, Kentucky.
Jeff was going to work on his car, and Jessica was playing out in the yard beside him.
Hi, Jesse, what are you doing?
He was getting something out of the toolbox, and she was counting out the sockets.
Thank you.
She can't count right, so she was like saying 1, 2, 9, 8, back and forth on the numbers, and he was counting with her. I heard him squeal, so I looked back over towards him. He was struggling, trying to push the car away from him, and all of a sudden it rolled the rest of the way down on his neck and head and chest, and he just stopped moving, just all at once, just laid still. First thing I think of was just get it up off of him, so I tried picking it up on the fender wheel, and it wasn't budging at all. I stepped across him, looked at him. His eyes had already rolled back in his head. His face was turning blue. His lips had turned blue. And I ran back in the house, trying to get some help. I couldn't hear anything. It wasn't ringing or anything.
Jennifer could not get her phone to work.
Help! Somebody help! Help!
From across the street, Patricia Pearson heard Jennifer's cries.
I come out of the house, and I went around the car, and her husband was up under the car, and we was trying to lift it off of him, and we couldn't. And I felt bad because he was just laying there. He was just lifeless.
Help!
Next door neighbor Tim Pulley, a volunteer with the local rescue squad, also heard Jennifer and called the Todd County Emergency Center.
10-4.
The county's volunteer rescue squad was immediately notified of the emergency. Paramedic Scott Marshall was at home when the report came across his radio.
I knew that with a car on somebody like that, that we were going to need help quick.
He had a pulse, but he wasn't breathing. I thought his neck was broke, and with no movement, nothing. I thought, well, he's dead. There's nothing I can do for him.
Tim said, I can't get it up. I said, we've got to do something. I can't leave him here. And Jessica just kept hollering for her daddy. No! No, girl, no.
I jacked it up as far as he'd go, and about all they'd done is jack the car up about 2 inches. I kept screaming, can you get him? Can you get him? Is he out? Can you get him now? And she kept saying, no, no, no.
No, no, no! I just pulled as hard as I could trying to get him out, and I still can't get him out. It was just so tight. Well, I looked, his neck wasn't even an inch thick.
Anything? No. I reached up on the front fender, and I pulled down. What I was trying to get here was a teeter-totter effect.
After 4 minutes, they were finally able to pull Jeff free.
he wasn't breathing and his face was just solid blue. Even his lips were blue. And I couldn't find a pulse in his neck or in his wrist, and I just thought he was dead. Come on, breathe, Jeff. Come on, breathe. Breathe.
I knelt down in front of him, and I reached over and I grabbed his head and held it, because I just knew anything like that, he had to have something broke in his neck.
We can't make it without you. Come on, Jeff. Come on, breathe. And he just took 2 breaths of air by himself.
Paramedic Marshall got to the scene in less than 4 minutes.
Once I got out of my vehicle and over to Jeff, I saw that he was unconscious, that he was cyanotic, and his respirations were practically zero. He was having maybe 3 or 4 respirations per minute.
Breathe.
He never did gain consciousness the whole time I seen him, and he was just gurgling. Like he was gurgling on blood.
They just kept saying, he's gonna be okay, he's strong, he can handle it. I said, I don't know this time. It was nothing's ever happened like that. And we've been married ever since I was 15 years old. I never thought about losing him.
The nearest trauma center was more than an hour away, so a life flight helicopter was called in to transport Jeff.
One of the ambulance drivers said you can't go with him. I said, no, I've got to be with him. I thought if he died before I got over there, you know, I'd never see him again.
But there was no room for Jennifer on board the helicopter, so Jeff's parents drove her the 50 miles to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Jeff was moved to ICU and put on a respirator to help keep him alive. After 2 days, there was still no sign of improvement.
Jeff, can you hear me? I was standing there beside his bed. Can you hear me? He opened his eyes and he held his arms up like he was cradling the baby. The kids? I said, the kids? He said, yeah. He shook his head and I said, the kids are fine. They're my dad's. They're gonna be okay. We just gotta worry about getting you okay.
Within a week, 24-year-old Jeff Wellborn was released from the hospital. In the months after the accident, he and his wife Jennifer grew close to their neighbor and rescuer, Tim Pulley.
If he hadn't been there, Jeff wouldn't be here today. The kids wouldn't have no daddy, and I wouldn't have no husband. What classroom? Spelling bee. Yep. And he's a great big guy, but he's got a great big heart, or he wouldn't even care enough to come out. Okay.
Well, I was made this size for some reason. Maybe that was it. I wouldn't took a nickel for a pound of it that day.
What's the name of it? I shook his hand when we got out of the hospital. Told him what good deed he done. If it'd been anybody else around there, I don't believe that came out and helped. But I'm glad he did.
What superhero?
I think when people are in a hurry and trying to work on something and don't take the right safety precautions, that this type of accident is going to continue to happen. If you're going to work on your own vehicle, use some common sense. You know, secure the vehicle, scotch the vehicle, keep it from rolling back.
We don't take it for granted anymore that we're together. Every other anniversary, he's always worked and I've always worked. This time, we both took off and stayed together the whole day. Whatever we do it together and make the most of what we got.
did exactly what he was told by Jim on the radio to the T.
Though Joe Lippo had never met Scott Gordon before, he risked his life for him. 4 years later, Scott is a commercial pilot flying big jets for a major airline out of Jackson.
I really didn't think that we were actually going to pull this off. I figured we'd try it and do a few runs and say, no, this is just too crazy. All three of us actually could have been injured easily, especially Joe. And he really stuck his neck out to get underneath that airplane and save the day.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened. Bill Heasley owned a small bait and tackle shop in the outskirts of Fresno, California. 6 days a week, he ran the register and waited on customers himself. Until the night of January 17th, 1989.
It appears that Bill was closing up. He was removing guns from the display counter and putting them in a gun case, which in turn he takes to the safe and locks them up in the safe. We located witnesses that observed 3 individuals pulling up in the pickup. At least 2 of the individuals we know went into the store, and obviously they were not going to leave a witness behind.
A call came into dispatcher Diane Vargas at 4:58 p.m.
911, what is the emergency?
I've been shot. This is Bill Benton Tackle. My name's Bill Heasley. I'm at 4-hole.
Okay, sir, I know where you are, sir. Now, you've been shot by a robber or what?
Multiple times.
Now, Bill, where are you hit?
In the lower, in the stomach, and in the legs, quickly.
I typed it into a computer-aided dispatch system, automatically getting officers on the way as my coworker punched into emergency medical teams, and they started to respond.
The fire department was immediately dispatched. EMT Steve Braun and paramedic Laurie Stevens were already in the field.
We heard the call come down. It was just to the east of us, less than a mile away. And I knew the next nearest ambulance was some distance away. And we immediately responded.
Okay, now, so we're going to get an ambulance and paramedics out there. We are sitting on the as I'm talking to you. I need to know if you know of the suspects.
No, they were there. Hurry.
Okay, how many of them were there?
I don't know. 2, I think.
Okay, now we're going to get officers there right away.
An unknown white male adult came to a residence after the
Sergeant Jeff Johnson happened to be nearby when the call was dispatched.
I could hear the units that were supposedly responding were just too far away. They're on the opposite side of the metropolitan area. I knew I was only less than 1.5 miles, 2 miles from there. And so I told her I would go, and I picked up some speed.
Now I'm going to sit on the phone with you. You don't have to talk if you don't feel like it, okay? So try to take it real easy, okay?
I'm not going to make it.
Yes, you are, sir. You are going to make it.
Shot him up 6 times.
Okay.
One badly, I think my kidney's bleeding.
This is the FSO. I've got a man who's been shot.
EMS dispatcher Dan Lynch took over Bill's call.
What is your name? Bill Easley. Okay, Bill. Where is your gunshot wound at? In the stomach. In the stomach. Lower right side, about 5 or 6 times the leg. Okay.
You could hear the pain, you could hear the fright in his voice of what just occurred to this man.
I just want you to rest. Slow your breathing down. Okay, I'm on the phone with you, all right? Okay, we're on with you. Are you laying down? Yes. Okay, flat on your back. On the side. I want you to lay flat on your back. It won't help with the blood, okay? Put your legs up in the air. Put something under your legs. Put that leg under your blood shot. Okay, put something under your legs. I can't. Okay, we're on our way. So. It's harder for me to believe on my back. Okay, then you get comfortable on your side.
And as the call gradually progressed, you could hear his breathing grow more rapid and deeper, which is a sign of shock. This guy was on his way out.
The paramedics were the first to arrive, but they are not allowed to enter violent crime scenes without police protection.
I can't do Bill any good if I'm shot. I can't do him any good if I'm dead. We just pulled back across the street. If we had to get out of there quickly, we could.
They could only wait, helplessly, until police arrived.
It's starting to feel cold. Okay. Slow your breathing down a little bit. Yeah. Listen, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Yes, you will. Okay, go ahead, okay. All right. Tell my wife I love her. Tell my boys I love them too. All right. And that'll be good.
It was very disheartening to know that we had a unit that was sitting outside and we couldn't do anything to help this man right now.
When we continue.
Call my wife. Tell her.
Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern on Get TV.
Bill Heasley was still lying on the floor with multiple gunshot wounds inflicted by armed robbers. The 911 dispatcher was his only link to help, as paramedics were forced to wait just outside the store until the police could arrive and secure the scene.
Okay, Bill, just take it easy. Keep your breathing down a little bit. Also, call my wife. Tell her to get the help.
You in here? Yeah.
It looked like it'd been a war inside one small area, about 20 square feet. It didn't take but a few seconds for me to check the store and make sure nobody was there looking in the shadow, which would endanger Bill or me. And then my attention was drawn to Bill. And that's when the shock really hit, when I saw his condition. My first thought was, call the homicide team. Even though he was still breathing and everything else, that was one of the first things I did after the paramedics had came in the room.
Let's go.
He was pale as a ghost. He felt like an old rag. I mean, he was just very, very cold and clammy. I started doing his vital signs. They were poor for him. His pressure was low, his pulse was up, his respirations were up. We finished checking for all the bullet wounds, so we knew what kind of time we were working against, what was bleeding. We got him in the mask pants and we lifted him out of there, just to get him out of there. We didn't even spend time to pump him up inside the scene. We just pulled him out to where we had room to work on him. Got him loaded and we got him in the unit.
They headed to Valley Medical Center, where the trauma team was notified to prepare for Bill's arrival.
It's got trauma.
He just knew he was gonna die. He knew he wasn't gonna make it. Just tell my wife I love her, please. You've got to tell my wife I love her. And I said, okay, Bill, I promise. What's the number? So he gave me the number, and I repeated the number. He says, yes. I said, Bill, I'll tell her, I promise. He says, okay. And I think a little bit of calmness came over him.
The ambulance arrived at the emergency room within 10 minutes. On duty that night was Dr. Gene Carlson.
Anyone with that many holes in him is in dire straits. In Bill's case, we know that when the paramedics got to him, he already was in significant shock, that he had lost a fair amount of blood, probably a quarter of his blood supply. So we know from that by the time he gets to us, he may have lost a lot more than that.
Here in the entrance room, here in the right upper quadrant.
Roll him over this way. There were multiple wounds on the legs and one major wound in the upper abdomen that we were most concerned about. We knew from the location of that wound that some large vascular structures like the liver, kidney, and possibly other things could well have been hit.
Bill Heasley was hit by at least 7 bullets. As he was rushed into surgery, paramedic Laurie Stevens went to keep her promise.
That phone call was awful. I go, Bill wants me to tell you that he loves you. And tell the kids that he loves them too.
I relived many, many times in my mind what it may have been like for him. To me, when he said in the tape that he loved me, means more to me than anything he's ever given to me.
Doctors worked on Bill for 3 hours to try to save his life. With 5 bullets still inside him, Bill has survived.
I'm not a person that's been afraid to die. What concerned me more than anything was, of course, that I would not be with my wife and my children. And that's really the only thing that I was thinking about at the end, that I would miss them if I did die.
He's my world. I love Bill very much. He's made my life very happy. It scares me to think that I may not have married him. I came close to not marrying him.
I think what kept him alive was his will to live. I really love my dad a whole lot. I'm really glad he's around.
The suspects involved in the shooting incident were arrested within a week and were subsequently convicted and sent to prison. Next.
She said she had a real bad headache and that she was sleepy, and this was unusual because she always feels pretty good.
Mom, please wake up, please.
This has been...
Star interviews, fun facts, and schedule highlights. Sign up today at get.tv.
When Ricky Folks went to work on the night of July 9th, 1990, he had no reason to be worried about leaving his wife and children alone in their home in Sherman, Texas.
We ate, I gave my wife a kiss goodnight.
Ricky Folks left for work around 6:30 p.m., leaving 4-year-old Kurt and his younger sister Kristen in the care of their mother, Polly.
She always goes in and cleans the kitchen after I leave. The kids were making a lot of noise, so my wife had them go in their bedroom and close the door, and they could play as loud as they wanted to then. I called her about 8:30 and asked her what was going on and stuff. I always call her at night, see how things are going. She said she had a real bad headache and that she was sleepy, and this was unusual because she always feels pretty good.
Around 9 p.m., Kurt came out of his room.
Mom, wake up. What's up in the brain? Wake up. I'll finally wake her up. She won't wake up. Mom, what's up in the brain? Please wake up, please. Mama.
2 miles away, Wanda Knight got Kurt's call.
Hello? I didn't recognize the voice at first. He kept saying his name, but he said it real fast. When he kept talking about his mom, he couldn't wake up his mom. I thought maybe he thought he was calling someone else, you know. And so I thought, well, maybe I should listen to what he had to say for a second. What did you say your name was?
C-U-R-T.
Oh, Kurt. My number was pre-programmed on Polly's phone. She had told me that she had pointed out to Kurt the day before what to do in case of an emergency, and she told him that if he needed somebody to call us. And so I said, well, do you want me to come over and check on her? And he said, yeah. So I said, okay, I'll be there as soon as I can. I thought maybe she was sick or something, or just asleep, and he probably wasn't shaking her hard enough. I thought maybe he's exaggerating or something like that. I really expected Polly to answer the door when I got there.
Wanda arrived at the Fultz house within a few minutes.
Polly? Polly? I'm supposed to open the door for people what I don't know.
Kurt, you called me now, remember?
When I went in and saw her laying on the couch, then I began to get concerned.
Polly, wake up.
Kurt was kind of teary-eyed. It was startling to him that his mom wouldn't wake up. When I picked up her hand and it was so limp, I thought that was real strange. I realized that maybe I need some help here.
Emergency?
And hello, this is Wanda Knight. I have an emergency here.
What's happening?
I don't know. A little friend of mine called and said he couldn't wake his mommy up. And she's laying here on the couch and she won't wake up.
All right, we'll get an ambulance en route immediately.
All right, thank you.
Polly? Polly, wake up. Come on, Polly, wake up.
Paramedics from a nearby fire station were immediately dispatched, along with an ambulance from 5 miles farther away.
I went over and picked up the baby and took Kurt by the hand, took him to the open door, and I said, you know, Mommy's going to be okay. Let's go and watch the ambulance come in. They were there within just minutes. I mean, it was less than 5 minutes, I know.
When firefighter Richard Anderson and paramedic Travis Pickle arrived, they had no idea what the problem was.
The first thing it is was an odor of gas.
The gas was so thick at any time it could reach a pilot light, a power surge, telephone ringing. One spark could cause the whole place to blow up.
I was just so anxious about waking her up, and I was rushing to and fro. That's the reason I didn't smell the gas right off. I really didn't even think about it.
As I entered into the kitchen, I could hear a sound. It was like a hiss of steam escaping or air leaking from a tire, just a type sound. I turned off the stove and began immediately to open the windows and the doors to get the oxygen into the house.
We went back outside and waited on the lawn.
As long as you have a gas environment, what you're going to be breathing will be the gas, and it's just going to slowly cause you to suffocate. She was probably just, I would say, minutes away from death.
Okay, she's coming around a little. Take some good deep breaths for me, okay?
During the situation, the mother was so groggy that she didn't really understand what was going on. As we got her outside, she started to come around even more.
She kept asking where her kids were, and I kept trying to reassure her that I had her kids and they were okay. I guess she didn't hear me because she kept asking where her kids were.
Polly and her children were taken to the hospital, where they were examined by Dr. Jerry Gray.
Apparently, Kurt wasn't experiencing the same effects she was, maybe because he was in a different room with lower concentration of gas or just being lowered to the floor. Had he not intervened and gotten help to his mother when he did, my estimate, another 20 minutes would have been fatal.
Therefore, I, Joe April,
2 weeks later, 4-year-old Kurt Foltz received an award for heroism from the city of Sherman, Texas.
for his courage and conscientiousness in saving the life of his mother.
We were all impressed with Kurt. He was proud of what he'd done, and he was not only proud, he said, if you'd been there, I saved you too.
Give me five, John. we're proud of you, the young man.
Polly Foltz is grateful that her son knew what to do in an emergency.
If it hadn't been for what he did, there would not be Kurt, there would not be Kristen, and there would not be me.
Mama and Daddy told me I can call on if something wrong.
I was hoping he would pick up the phone and call if something was wrong, but you know, that's something you never can tell until it happens.
Probably what happened was when she was cleaning the stove, apparently she sprayed out the pilot light, and my little girl went in and turned on the stove and started gas going throughout the house. We think this because a week earlier she turned one of the burners on.
We've taken the knobs off the stove, and when they get older, we'll put the knobs back on, but for right now, they're off. They're in the drawer.
things on my mind.
Walker, I'm tired. My feet hurt. Look, the next time you get yourself in a...
You have an emergency.
Today on Rescue 911, terror on the ice. A snowmobiler falls through thin ice while his best friend stands by helpless.
I said, oh my God, what happened?
Rescuers risk their lives in sub-zero temperatures.
And he's very critical that he doesn't have much time left.
Then, when a Russian boy suffers staggering burns, U.S. doctors rush to the scene.
I was in shock.
On Rescue 911.
Friendships are special gifts to be cherished. And when a crisis threatens to take them away, we'll do whatever it takes to prevent the unthinkable. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of strength, skill, and spirit on Rescue 911. We begin on December 19th, 1992, as Mike Gillum and his best friend, Marlon Bessler, set out to go snowmobiling on a frozen lake near their home in Minnetrista, Minnesota.
Marlon and I picked up his new snowmobile, and of course we were very anxious to try it out. On our way, we had noticed that there was some open patches of water. We decided that we better get home because this ice does not look safe. We had to keep the speed up at least past 60 miles an hour because if the ice is not safe or if it's not thick, you want to be going a little bit faster so you can just skim across it. I had sped across the bay and had stopped and looked back, and I didn't see him. When we continued, I looked out on the ice and I saw nothing. I know from my training that the person's going to be very hypothermic and probably isn't going to be able to hang on or stay floating very long.
Order and donate today.
When Mike Gillum lost track of Marlon Bessler while they were snowmobiling together on a frozen lake, he had no idea what kind of trouble his best friend had gotten into.
And so at that point, I knew that I had to get back to an area where I last saw him. And all of a sudden I saw a black dot in the horizon. When I first saw that black dot in the water, I said, oh my God, what happened? And I couldn't believe that he had fallen through the ice. I was scared to death, and I really didn't know what to do. plain fear kept me paddling and kicking as fast as I could in order to get to an area where I could get my body up onto the ice. And at that point, I had made a decision that I can't go over and help Marlon because all I would do is fall through the ice. The only thing that I can think of is running to shore and try to get some help.
Someone who saw the accident had already called 911. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Water Patrol rescue team responded.
I could see just a little speck out in the middle of the lake, and as long as I saw that speck, I knew that he was okay. But at any minute, I felt like that speck was going to disappear and he was going to be gone. It's an absolutely frightening thought.
Sergeant Bill Chandler was the first member of the rescue team to arrive. By that time, Marvin had been in the freezing water for more than 15 minutes.
He's out there, he's about half a mile out there.
I looked out on the ice and I saw nothing.
Are you okay? I'm okay.
I know from my training and experience that the person's going to be very hypothermic and probably isn't going to be able to hang on or stay floating very long.
Deputy Marianne Olson arrived already wearing a cold water survival suit.
Marianne, we got a snowmobile through the ice. Come on. Okay.
It was a real strain trying to run with the Gumby suit on and carrying a rope bag. And as we were running, I looked out and I saw this little black speck. And someone pointed out and said, that's him. And it was incredible. I thought that he's really out there.
Members of the local volunteer fire department drove over to help the rescue team when they heard the report on their radios.
We knew that going out on the ice was dangerous, but he had been in the water probably over half an hour already. So I knew that he's very critical, that he doesn't have much time left, and we've got to get him out and into a warm environment. Everybody stopped their snowmobiles, and I told them to stay back, because I knew between us and that hole was the worst ice. I also knew how critical it was, and I knew we had to get to him quick.
Okay, I got it.
When I went through the ice, I had an instant wave of pain coming from my waist up to my head. I was scared. I remember thinking, my God, if I don't get to this person quick, I'm going to see him go down. And I never saw any movement. And I never heard anything from him.
I felt the ice start to cave in beneath me, and then I remembered feeling a real sense of urgency.
Bring the basket!
Thinking that I needed to do what I was trained to do if I was going to help this man, and I had to do it in a hurry.
If we could not hang on to him, he was down. I resolved that I wasn't going to let go of him, but I still had a fear that if he slipped out of our grip, he was just going to disappear from sight in the water.
He's having a problem. Hold on. So make sure you keep on the ice. There's a flare behind you. All right.
And they started moving, and I thought, thank God, this guy's got a chance now. If they keep hustling and get him into shore, he might make it.
After spending nearly 45 minutes in the icy waters, Marlon Bessler was taken to the local hospital, where he was treated for hypothermia and released the next day.
That is as close to death as I've ever been. And I started thinking, should I prolong this as long as I can by holding my breath at the bottom of the lake, or do I just take one big gulp and kill myself? So when I heard the help coming, it was just the most unbelievable sound, and I felt just elated. I mean, it was like, this is going to be the happiest day of my life.
Ever since this situation happened, we have been extremely cautious. It's very important to us that we go out and enjoy what we like to do, also be safe doing it.
When you get saved, like I did, you look around, you say, wow, you know, there are hundreds and thousands of people in this world that dedicate their life to saving other people.
I felt like I did my job and I did the right thing, and this man lived. And I actually saved somebody's life. It was a feeling of elation. It just felt as good as having a baby.
I'm most grateful for being alive, just breathing air today.
Next, I looked out the window. I saw a burning torch. I couldn't see his face, but I could see his red cap. Then I figured out it was Anton.
When tragedy struck a young Russian boy in September of 1990, strangers from across the world united to attempt a rescue that had never been done before. It's a story that reminds us all that when a child's life is at stake, there are truly no boundaries. In a remote part of Siberia lies the wind-blown seaport of Magna. Every afternoon when school lets out, children who live in this mining center head for home, including 8-year-old Anton Avdyenko and his friend Maxim Bulgakov.
Лучший друг мой, Антон.
My best friend is Anton, because he defends me and sticks up for me.
Я его защищаю. Мы много проводим.
We spend lots of time in the yard, almost every day. We're good friends.
После школы я сказал,
After school I said, let's go make a fire. We'll toast some potatoes and bread.
Anna Avdyenko had just gotten home from work.
Как мальчик, он очень шустрый.
Anton's always into things. He always has a torn up knee or a bruise here and there. And he's very active. He's into everything, but nothing serious.
по дороге я спросила Антона.
On the way I asked Anton, oh, where are we gonna get some matches? And he said, my brother Denis and I hid some in the hole.
Once they had the matches, along with another friend, they went to gather some wood and kindling from a construction site next door.
За дом мы увидели.
Behind the house, we saw some barrels with some kind of liquid. The barrels were just standing there, and they smelled kind of like oil or shellac.
Я сказал,
And I said to Anton, this liquid will burn really well.
я держал бочку, Антон.
We held the barrel, and Anton put the can up to the hole. And we leaned it over hard, and the fluid came out very fast. It wet him from his knee to his elbow.
По дороге Антон сказал,
I said to Anton, go change your clothes.
он сказал,
And he said, my mom's going to be mad at me. And didn't go.
Антон, давай обольем соляркой, это очень хорошо будет гореть. Давайте, а что же нам надо-то?
way home with her young son, Irina Pamasok noticed what the boys were doing.
I went up and I told them, you're lighting a fire, and you know that's dangerous. You don't know what might happen. At that moment, I noticed that my son had kind of run far away from me.
And then a piece of paper that was in the fire flew out and landed on Anton's leg and started Anton's leg on fire.
Within moments, the fire had spread over his whole body, and in a few seconds, he was like a torch. The flames were higher than his head.
Я услышала крики, посмотрела в окно.
When I heard the screaming and I looked out the window, I saw a burning torch. I couldn't see his face because of the fire, but I could see his red cap, and I figured out it was Anton.
I did the wrong thing. I know that I should have wrapped him up completely in something to put the flames out. But I was in shock. I just died. I didn't know what to do. It was horrible. It was terrible, terrible memory.
A truck driver who delivered water in the area saw the smoke and fire and stopped to help.
It's impossible to say how a mother feels when she's losing her child right in front of her eyes. It seems to me that my heart broke into little pieces and couldn't be put back together again. Anton said, "Mother, don't cry, it's my fault. It's all my fault." He kept saying, "Mommy, don't cry. Everything will be all right." It seemed like the ground was falling away from under my feet.
Unable to get help by phone, a close family friend flagged down a passing truck to drive Anton to the hospital.
I cut off the remnants of his pants. I took off his jacket. I took off his cap. It was a horrible picture. His legs were all black and red. His left hand was injured. It was bleeding. His lower lip was broken on the left side. Everything was hanging down. It was very painful, very frightening, and very awful.
Anton's father, Vladimir, was just returning home from a trip to the store.
When I started getting close to the house, I saw the truck standing at the entrance. The upset people near it. And I started getting a weird feeling that something strange had happened. I saw Anton coming out from the entrance. My throat was chalky, with tears.
The truck drove Anton and his father a mile to the main hospital in the area.
I wish I could put myself in his place. Do the suffering for him and for him to be well.
Doctors at the Magadan Regional Hospital immediately rushed the boy into the first aid room.
The first thought I had was, how can I leave him alone? But probably every parent has that feeling at the difficult moment when leaving one's child behind.
Burns covered almost 35% of Anton's body. Doctors and nurses removed the dead tissue and did all they could to ease the pain and disinfect the wounds.
The first night when they took Anton to the hospital was difficult to take. Anton was not with us. When you lose something precious, it seems that you're no longer alive. What is there left to live for? It's the most precious thing that we have, our children.
Most burn victims die of infection. To reduce that threat, Anton was isolated from all contact with the outside world, including his mother and father. Despite the best efforts of the local doctors, his condition began to deteriorate.
On the third day, they told us that the burns were very serious, very deep. They told us that they had to try to send him somewhere to a burn center, since there are no burn specialists here.
The nearest Soviet burn center with space for the boy was thousands of miles away in Moscow, and they had no means of safely transporting him in his weakened condition.
It seemed to me that the doctors were beginning to prepare us for the worst, and that was because he might die.
In main. In home, to buy live button, 88 of 100. In Newson. Big. Low. Michael Jackson. Crackle. Nick. CNBC. YouTube button. Launching YouTube.
He's gonna be okay, he's strong, he can handle it. I said, I don't know this time.
In main menu.
For more full Rescue 911 videos, hit the big red button and subscribe. Peace out, YouTube. And I'm going to click on finish event now. And the video will end.